Well, here I am back at it again. Hopefully more videos coming soon now that I'm not dealing with grinding ranked and stuff slowed down for me a bit. Anyways, sometimes games, you shouldn't take the bait. You shouldn't talk about how bad the game is. And, they say that you should be above the bait. I'm not. We're talking about LSBRY, day one, game two. Um, so pretty normal draft so far, except for one thing. You'll notice a very specific lack of a certain enchanter that is also played mid lane. The teams have just both ignored for some reason. Um, why they did this, I couldn't tell you. It makes no sense to me. I wish I knew. It fits relatively well into both teams' compositions. Like, you don't need to pick Zed here. You have enough ability to get AD later, especially 4-5 with you would still have jungle top lane up, which are heavy AD rules anyways. You can also throw like Lucian Karma in a lane. You don't have to do Lucian Nami. It's just that Nami pairs very well with Lucian. Karma still has those supportive aspects that can get Lucian what he needs. And she does have a lot of the same range as Nami, and I think her ultimate is just generally more useful. I don't think that Nami's ultimate is as useful in teamfights just because of movement speed. So now we're gonna get into some fun stuff here. We're seeing a lot of jungle bans. So we see Jin Zhao, Vi, Lee Sin banned out. Shyvana was banned out in the Blue Phase 1. So starting on what is the more important role here? Jungle or top lane? You pick jungle for here because you've banned 1, 2 if you count Camille. I don't think she's necessarily a high prio jungler anymore. I think she's better in top lane now. But 5 junglers. We'll say 5, right? So 2, 3, 5. But 5 junglers. So you need to pick a jungler that's, important here. Plus, then you can give your top lane counter pick. And then you have the ability to, go from there. Surely they'll do that. Riven jungle. Good. They're going to pick Shen for top lane. And then Diana jungle. Or, well, it could be Gragas jungle, obviously. You can switch those two around. And then, what are RY going to select? Pantheon. Pantheon. Just pick Jackson, put Riven in the jungle. You don't need to have Pantheon as your jungler here. There's nothing about Pantheon that is good here. RY they're trolling. Like, this is troll behavior. Just pick Jax. He doesn't necessarily have a great matchup into Shen. It's probably not the best. But, like, it's okay. Pick Aurelia. Aurelia jungle is fine. But, for God's sakes, don't pick Pantheon. Look, I'm gonna say it, Master Yi would have been better. Master Yi at least has something going. What does Pantheon have going for him? A global ultimate, which does nothing. It just, like, tickles people. Pantheon is so bad, you should never pick him. Anyways, we'll see Diana mid lane, we'll see Gragas in the jungle. The logic behind the Pantheon pick, getting into it, now that I'm talking about the top lane, is right. Shen Riven, pretty good matchup for Riven, because Shen doesn't have a lot of DPS, especially until he finishes Aegis, or Sunfire Aegis specifically. So, right, bot lane is pretty even set. Ziggs, pretty high prio bot lane. So you love to see that. Anyways, so talking about the top lane stuff, right? Oh God, I fucking hate YouTube. Anyways, talking about top lane stuff, right? So when you're considering what the Shen ultimate does, right, it gives you that global presence. And so the idea from RY is probably to counter that global Shen presence with the global Pantheon, right? So whenever Shen ults on top of somebody, you can just use the Pantheon ult to counter that Shen ultimate. But then you lose your jungler, right? Because this means that to counter the Pantheon ultimate, or to counter the Shen ultimate, your Pantheon has to A, not be in the fight already, not be ganking, and be within range, yet far enough away from Shen that he isn't more effective to stun him. All three of those things have to happen, which is highly unlikely. So that's why I don't like this Pantheon pick. Not to mention, Pantheon does absolutely no damage, and it's just a bad pick overall. A few things to note. First of all, Phase Rush on set, not a fan. Like I said in the last video, Phase Rush has been getting popular. I don't think it's good. I can see the logic for it on set, right? You face breaker, and then you get behind them really fast, and then you slam them into the ground into your team using his ultimate. But like, just buy Proto Belt. Then you're not wasting it. Aftershock is just such a good rune. Like, Gragas is taking it over Electrocute. Like, it's just so good. Like, normally Aftershock, or normally Aftershock is like a supportive rune that supports will pick, but it's just so much damage right now that it's ridiculous. And that, like, if you're not taking Aftershock, you're losing out on a lot of damage potential, which you kind of need in a comp with Pantheon, where Pantheon is just going to poke the enemy down. The comp overall, right? So yeah, that's the big things, right? Kraken Slayer Lucian, whatever. Other big notes? No, nothing really important. The interesting thing that I do want to note is that a lot of mid laners have been taking the health crystal first, which I think is a bad decision. Um, if you're not building specifically, it's a it's an acceptable decision as long as you're not building the man item, Tear of the Goddess. If you're going to build Tear of the Goddess and you're up against a melee matchup like Zed, especially if they have energy like Zed, Akali, if they put Lee Sin in mid lane, you should take Tear of the Goddess to be able to contest over a longer period of time, right? Because if you want to not have the pressure of recall, they're likely going to be winning that lane, like Zed, like Akali, right? They're kind of lane boys, especially once they hit level 2, level 3, which happens really fast in Wild Rift. And so you need to be able to have that mana to sustain, especially for someone like Ari who can't necessarily contest the Zed in the early levels. Because like you can see right now, Diana's kind of getting bullied out, and she can't afford to use her first ability all that often. One, because of the cooldown, and two, because of the mana cost. So you got to pay attention to that, and that's problematic, especially what. That being said, Dianas don't usually build the Tear of the Goddess. It's probably going to be Rod of Ages first, which is why I don't think it's necessarily bad. Health items are the next one down in like the tier below after that, right? So like if you can't build tier, if it doesn't fit into your build for some reason, I would then obviously suggest that you go health items to have more sustain in the lane, especially against people like Zed who are looking to burst you down. Anyways, we're gonna see a really bad use of Ignite here, missed by the observers for some KW reason. But yeah, no one's gonna use Smite or Ignite. It's a really bad use of Ignite. Like, Eugen's not within death range, he's not even close. Like, Nami has healing, so you're just wasting it if you can't secure that kill or like immediately force them out of lane, like put them so low that they have to go out of lane. Good invade forces the flash, but like you're not forcing a flash is kind of meaningless on a Gragas specifically because he has a dash, so you're not getting as much value as you'd like. Double Scuttle is nice though. The Gragas also wasn't paying very much attention to how his clear was. Pantheon only did a partial red side clear, so he does get double Scuttle here. Which is, I think Gragas is technically a camp ahead, but because of the double Scuttle, Pantheon's pretty far ahead. You can see about 200 gold lead. Obviously after the kill, not as far ahead as you would like. And there's the Pantheon problem, right? So let's watch this sort of situation again. So first of all, I don't necessarily like this tower dive. I think that it would have been useful to scout here with a Pantheon Spear, just to test out the waters first. That's just kind of a lack of planning. Maybe it's something you think of if you play Pantheon more. But Gragas dash plus the taunt, right? Just a nice CC chain. You do a Riven kill, and then after this, Pantheon has to flash. She gets knocked up again off of like really good ult timing, right? You can see Gragas just hits 5 here, which is, unfortunate to say the least, but sometimes you just get rolled. And then he realizes he can't escape, so he tries to come in and get the kill, but he has no damage, so. Because, like, if he had any sort of damage, that's a kill. Also, he hasn't gotten the first back, and Gragas has, so Gragas does have a lot more damage, especially with Blasting Wand. And Health Crystal has a lot more sustain and a lot more damage. Yeah. I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. These first parts aren't super interesting. Jungle clears is pretty standard. Nothing super interesting in my eyes. Obviously, the double kill puts LSB a good margin ahead. Something you'd really like to see if you're Shen, because you do have a problem laning against Riven, and so that early lead will sort of mitigate the losses, especially in this sort of early to mid game, pre-Dragon, pre-Herald. And it'll also help you get that Bomb Cinder, that Sunfire Aegis, which really helps laning because you get that cooldown reduction, you get that, sort of passive burn, so that Riven can't necessarily engage on you for free. Even if she doesn't want to auto attack a ton, the taunts will still slow her down a bit. Yeah. Yeah, and again, even if Shen doesn't get the kills, the assist money is definitely worth it there, right? Because it's still keeping the gold lead minimal, especially for Riven. So yeah. First item completion is now coming online. Youmuu's for Zed, Luden's for Ziggs, Stone Plates or Enchants for both the supports. It's just way too good to rush Enchants right now. Like, it's actually insane. Anyways, I kind of missed over this, but this is just a really good gank here. Kind of runs out, hits it with a settled, and then face breaker, boom. And then this is just, I don't know, the amount of experience Lucian is going to get here is not something you like to see. This is why you should really, if you're going to do something like this, sit around the wave for a little longer. Because even though you do want to get your first back before the Dragon and the Riftchild spawn, the amount of gold and experience that you can deny here by zoning people off the wave is so much value that I think it's worth going for a late back, especially if it's only Riven who goes for a late back. You just kind of play safe and try to zone people off the wave. Maybe Pantheon's the only one who goes for late back in that scenario. You just kind of spear poke, and just try to force them into taking a loss. Because, like, now Lucian's going to get fed all of this gold. And just look at him, right? He is turbo farming. So, first dragon is Infernal. A very high prio dragon. Obviously, probably the second most high prio after the mountain. Yeah. In this team comp, though, RY is really looking to secure Infernal. It's interesting that they go to contest Herald at all. I think that you'd rather just take Infernal here, take the trade. But then again, these Asian teams just seem to have no idea how to combat this sort of Herald rush at 5. And it's way more valuable, I suppose would be the word, post turret changes with plates, in this like sort of post icons meta that before like in sort of like post icons pre, you know, competitive season 2 that we live in. Pantheon ult is nothing. Big surprise. Um God awful. Like look at this, okay? There's already a ward here, and they all just place them down at the same time. No communication. Ward placement is extremely important, and you just wasted 2 whole wards. Insane amounts of just, like, what do you, like, be like, hey, I'm warding. Ah. Ziggs gets killed. Almost gonna dash away. Still gets hit with the Gragas ult, but he gets survived. But Lucian gets the double kill. And this is why I was talking about denying gold, right? Because Lucian, right now, is basically a half an item ahead of everyone because he got that farm up top. And so this is why it's very important to deny gold, right? Because, like, he's got, what, 12 extra AD plus 10 extra crit percentage plus, I can't tell what the boots those are. They look like normal boots. Plus normal boots because he has extra gold, because he got that top lane farm, because they didn't deny it to him. Anyways, getting Herald isn't too big of a loss for, it's like, in that scenario, RY did the best they could. They obviously traded for some plates top lane, so it's not a complete loss. It's still very bad, though. Ziggs, starting up tier, so that's the item that you're interested in. Replay the team fight, don't care. I'm not going to be focusing on much of the early game because the early game isn't what's throwy. The late game is. Anyways, so now we can start seeing these sort of secondary or tertiary items come in. First of all, that charge, like that's just the amount of greed to let them get that second charge is really bad. Like Riven does have to take a safer path because she does see Gragas, but at the same time, you need to get here and try to stop this charge much faster because like that second charge is not necessarily much gold, but in effective value, you've just taken it up a lot, right? 'Cause normally you need maybe a Baron buff, maybe a few kills to siege your tier 2 turret, but with that Herald charge, you only need like another Herald, and you've basically broken into the inhib, so that does hurt it a lot. Other than that, you can see Gragas is going for the Frost Gauntlet, the defensive Sheen item second, um, which is very interesting to me because this Gragas is going to end up going, if I remember correctly, a tank build instead of the sort of normal AP build we see for Gragas. As you can see, Diana also going Crystalline Reflector second. Crystalline Reflector is an item that I need to look into a little more. I don't have a very well formed opinion on it, but the sort of emergence in it in this like once people saw Cassidy use it, like people seem to be really catching on to the idea that it's very good. There you saw part of the application of the Frozen Gauntlet, right? It kind of slows them down a little bit, letting you slow casks, which I think is an interesting application. I don't necessarily know if it's the best item, but I think it's an interesting one. So, just something to consider. He looks like they're trying to decide whether they're going for a gank or not, or just trying to push out wave. Trying to get that mid tower. But good rotation timing means that they are not going to be able to get it. and Do has to use his ultimate for escape. Also, forced out a flash from Zero there. Just not a great trade. The Pantheon ult is on a much longer cooldown than the Gragas ult and the Diana ult. Also, it's never worth trading an ult for flash, usually, unless it's like a really long cooldown ultimate, you know, in like a Galio, like first level, like a first dragon area. But that's about it. And they're still gonna get the tower though, so at the end of the day, it's a net positive, I'd say. Like at the end of the day, gold is what matters. It's how you really get ahead in the game. Okay. Lucian going. So Lucian going. What is plated steel caps here? I think most of the team is going plated steel caps. It looks like. Looks like Shen and Nami are the only ones that don't go for plated steel caps so far. But I think that these two, like the Diana and the Lucian, going for plated steel caps is just generally a bad move. I think that it's generally less useful, especially in Diana's build where you're going to build armor naturally with Crystalline Reflector. You want to go for the Tenacity boots to get Tenacity and you get the Magic Resist. And in this scenario, even though like it's debatable on Lucian, I think, because you do have to worry about burst from the Riven, the Pantheon, and the Zed. But at the same time, the CC from Pantheon, CC from Riven, CC from Set is also a very big problem that I think that you should be having a plan to deal with in that scenario. Which is why I do like the use of the Quicksilver boots. So I think that's the key point there. As for the Riven, there's really no excuse, or as for the Diana, there's really no excuse to go for the plated steel caps because there is no Quicksilver that you're ever going to build. You're just going to build Stasis, and even if you're CC chained, Stasis isn't going to necessarily help you a ton. It'll stop it temporarily. Good steal from LSB. So what they're going to do here is they're going to execute on the team fight, right? CC chain the Pantheon. It's kind of hard to see him, but he's right there, I believe. I believe that's him. And they're just going to CC chain smite him, and so they have no chance to connect with the Herald. This means they get the meter 2 once, since they do get those 3 kills. That's a good conversion. So you can see that Set is going what looks to be Warmog second, should be at least. This is a pretty popular support cooldown reduction build. You're just gonna go full cooldown reduction and call it a day. Lucian and Rapid Fire Cannon, normal Lucian stuff. Gragas, again, going steel-plated mail or Warden's mail. Not a huge fan. There's not a lot of auto-attacking that's going to be done, especially on the side of, RY. Riven's more of an ability user, same with Pantheon. Zed will auto-attack a few times, same with Set. And then Ziggs will auto-attack every now and then, but you'd more like to be spamming abilities, I think, in my eyes, when you're playing Ziggs. So yeah, because like if you're in auto range with Ziggs, you're probably dead. So I don't think that Warden's Mail gets much use here. I think it'd be better to see either like a Thorn Mail, Winter's Approach, or maybe an Abyssal Mask. Because Gragas will be diving towards the backline with that Diana. That's a big extra amount of damage. So something like that I think would be more effective. Anyways, this is a good catch out here, right? You can see the sort of collapse onto some lazy pathing from Gragas. He just kind of throws his ult out there, hoping to hit Zed and gets punished. Anyways, he's not going to be up for Ocean Dragon, which means it's basically free for OI. So they will have 2 drakes to 0, which, even though they did lose that first, or even though they did lose the second Rift Herald for the mid tower, you do have that dragon, which means you're going to have a lot of sustain in the team fights. So you now have 6% extra damage, and I think it's like 8% health regen or something like that. Good numbers. You like to see those. Crystal Reflector on Diana finished, along with the Stasis, means she's going to have some tank ability now. She's not going to be getting one shot, so she can kind of dive into that backline safely, especially with the Rod of Ages giving her the extra HP that she needs. Crit on Riven. It's just, there's just not much to say. It's just actually unhinged, I think is the word that I would use. To kind of further elaborate on why I'm not a huge fan of tank Gragas right now, it's because like in this team comp, you really only have 2 sources of damage if Gragas goes full tank. He's going partial tank, obviously, so you still have some damage, especially with the Rod of Ages, especially with the Iceborne Gauntlet. They do a good, okay amount of damage, but not a ton. But Diana and the Lucian, especially Lucian, can fall off in the late game when people start stacking a lot of armor. And I think that makes your team comp very one-dimensional. So you see people start building a few items, armor items, and then they'll just go MR and they'll be fine. They can survive for way too long in those team fights. Good smite there from Pantheon secures the kill onto Shen. Not much to say, but they just kind of trade side lane inhibitors, or side lane tier 2s. I'm just skipping through a lot of this. There's not much to talk about here until we get to this point specifically, because there's 2 things that I don't, or I'm not a fan of. First of all, is the fact that Ziggs has not finished the Seraph's Embrace. I think that's a big issue because that's a huge point in Ziggs scaling, right? The Ziggs power spikes are basically decided off of his items, and so you're going Luden's tier 2 item power spike, or Luden's tier Oblivion Orb, and then Rabadon's, which is a good 2 item power spike. But I think that, especially when you're looking at the enemy team, there's not a lot of health regen. So, like, Nami has good health regen, but she's not consistently health regenning. And especially once you know she has Locked Enchant and not Redemption, you don't need Oblivion Orb. I think the Oblivion Orb purchase was pretty hasty. And I think that it would have been better to invest that money into getting that second item online, to getting it transformed, so that you're just obliterating them, and so that Nami's healing doesn't do enough, right? Because it's going to have to hit multiple enemies to hit the teammate again, so that you can do that over and over again. The other one is obviously the Riven build. Navori Quick Blades. I don't know, it's just insane to watch these teams that went to Icons just like do the stupidest shit. How can you think that this like it is good in any way, shape, or form? Right? Like, hold up. First of all, right, you know that the Gragas is building. I'm pulling up Wildrift on my phone to read this goddamn item. 45 attack damage, 25% critical rate, 15 ability haste. Critical attacks reduce your non-ultimate ability cooldowns by 20% of their remaining cooldown. Just build Death Dance. 35 attack damage, 40 armor, 50 ability haste. It's just better. The critical rate on Riven is useless. It does nothing for you. You're not going to be getting crits as Riven. She's not, like, her crit rate naturally is just very low. And so your chance to get crits is basically nothing. So if you're not getting crits, you're not getting value. You're not getting that cooldown reduction, which means you're doing nothing. Not to mention, Riven's cooldowns aren't that long to begin with. Other than that, right, if you're comparing Navori Quick Blades versus Death Dance, right, Death Dance passive is just better. The ability to sustain through team fights is so good, especially if you just kind of avoid the tank in this scenario. Obviously, that's not easier said than done, right? But Shen is the only one, or well, Shen and Nami have anti-heal, but it's not a ton of like grievous wounds of applications. Uh, Obviously, like I think I went into a little bit, but Gragas has built Frozen Heart, which means that your attacks are not going to go fast. So you're not getting value because you can't attack a ton. Just build Death Dance. It's just massive amounts of just like think about it for God's sake. Anyways, you can see that the third item is about to come online for Diana. Luna gets caught out there, manages to survive, so it's whatever. Um, if you want to look at it from the idea that like you did trade 2 summoner spells for the ultimate, which is very bad, but I think dying in that scenario is worse because Baron up and that is like Baron is the end of the game here. Yeah. So, anyways, they're kind of like the teams are kind of doing this hokey pokey because neither of them wants to take Baron. Like these teams are playing so scared. Also, the other problem is that neither team can dedicate like the time to push out waves, right? You see that waves are consistently like right here for blue and right here for red. Like they need one of them needs to push out wave, get prio, and just start Baron. Like just try to force someone to take it, you know? Um, you can see there again just bad wave management. Like maybe giving up the tower is like okay, but like just don't give it up in that scenario. Um, yeah, it just kind of gets destroyed for no reason. I can't tell if it's a denial of logo gold. It's hard to tell how Shen is positioned on the mini map. So, did I mention I hate observers? Like just unhinged. Um, Sorelda's Grudge third item on Zed is interesting to say the least. Um, I think that I think that it'd probably be better to go the Grievous Wounds item, but I don't really know. That one's like I'm not a Zed player, so I couldn't tell you. Um, Again, Nashor's Tooth instead of Rabadon's Death Cap here on Diana. Like, why? Right? Like, you get so much of a power spike off of Rabadon's versus Nashor's. Nashor's doesn't give you that 35% bonus AP. 35% is a ridiculous amount of bonus AP that you need to, like, just grab a hold of. Why does Ziggs finish Morinella Nomicon here? I couldn't tell you. Why is he not finished Seraphs? It's just insane. These people are unhinged. They're just doing shit for the sake of doing it, it feels like. Like, if you ask them, why is Shen building Hullbreaker right now? Like, there is no good reason. Even though you're going to be stuck on sideline duty, you're still gonna ult in for team fights. Like, there's no way that Shen isn't going to be there for a team fight. So why build Hullbreaker? Also, just give up the Mountain Dragon for free, for nothing. Like, this fundamental play is just so bad. How have these teams got like these teams got smacked by China once and just forgot how to play the game? Like, how can you look at this and just like NA got How can you look at this and be like, yeah, NA is the worst region. NA is a clown region. Like, how? It's insane at what these teams are doing. Anyways, Elder is up in 2 minutes. Will any team try to force Baron, or will they just avoid it like the plague? Again, unless Ziggs plans to sell tier, buying a Void Pendant is a mistake. Because why? Like you could either finish tier and then go into the Void Pendant, which means that you're not waiting until you have 2 or 3k gold in your pocket, right? You can build the Lost Chapter, go 1050, and then go 1050 again, right? You have the ability to split up your purchases and not have to buy them multiple times. Now you have to buy it all at once, which means that you're going to need a set of 2k gold, which isn't going to happen that often, even in the late game. And especially with how these teams have been playing, it's going to take like 5 minutes. Like, I'm just losing my mind. Lucian has reached full build. Black Cleaver last item. Beyond me. Unhinged. Anyways, Riven goes Solari Charge Blade. Crit Riven. Crit Riven. I refuse to believe that this is real. Anyways, Doe gets caught out, right? Okay, jungler's down. Surely you're gonna go for Baron. Surely. Please tell me for God's sakes they go for Baron. For God's sakes. You have a man advantage. Go for Baron. Just the lack of, like, urgency from these teams is insane. He's gonna be back up in 15 seconds. Now you don't have time to do Baron. You could have gotten Baron in this time, but you just got the mid-tier 2 instead. I'm losing my mind. I watched this game on 2x speed originally, and I like saw these things, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess it's time to make a video on it. It'll be funny. But this game is just making me depressed. Protector's Vow? What the fuck is going on? Okay, so I can understand sort of the logic for buying Protector's Vow Nami. You can kind of be sitting on Lucian the entire time, basically. And even then, it's ability haste. Ability haste is really not every bad item. They do have a lot of poke and a lot of sort of burst after that poke, so that sort of makes sense. Okay, she finalized Rabadons. Spirit Massage. Okay, whatever. This game is just and stasis. You can sort of see the impact that what's it called? Split push Shen is working. I hate that this was working. Also, I do remember the ending to this game. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it for yourself before watching it for me. Because, by God, it's a hell of an ending. Okay, well, guess who has no vision around Elder Dragon and it's getting taken right now? Like, just a bad fundamental play. Trade for Baron. No, we're just going to let them have Elder Dragon. Like, RY are trying their hardest to get back into this game, and LSB are trying their hardest to throw. RY aren't doing much to prevent this throwing either, but holy shit. Okay, so we'll talk about the series of events, right? The Secure Elder Dragon. They're gonna stun in, sort of try to kill the Gragas really quickly. They're gonna use the Ziggs ult, and yeah. So they don't get any kills onto the Gragas, but they do see the Lucian. The Lucian is easily collapsible on by the Zed, so the Zed tries to collapse, as well as the Riven and the Pantheon. But the rest of the team is back here. Riven and Pantheon are here, tanking tower shots on their own. So Diana comes in, hits a nice moonfall, drags them into tower range, and then just goes buck wild. I don't get it. They also are not executing the turret for some reason. There they go. And here it goes. Well, Tier tried to split push, didn't get it. He's probably gonna die for it. He looks like he should. He does in fact die for it because of the execute. So yeah, this is a miserable game to watch. Like, look at this game and like try to think about how badly both of these teams would be getting rolled if they were playing an actually good team. It's just unhinged. They do have vision around Baron, so they're gonna try to contest. Diana goes in, hits a moonfall, steals Baron. This gets into what I talked about yesterday. But don't let people into the Baron pit while you're fighting Baron. That's a recipe for steals. Also, what is the Baron at? It's at what, 1802? Hold up, we're gonna do some psychoanalysis here. Because it looks like the Baron doesn't have an opportunity to get smited. Okay. Don't want quality, I want playback speed. Or actually, can I go? Oh, well. So Doe does try to smite it. He just misses. And so Diana gets away with the Baron. And I believe that at this point, Elder has expired. So what's going to happen here? They're going to try to fight and end the game. Well, they can't. Ziggs just wave clear is way too good. Their health bars are also kind of low, so yeah. Good avoidance by the death mark there of Nami, probably would have killed her. And then almost a kill onto the Diana by the Ziggs. Gragas uses ult for a blue buff steal. This one isn't like egregious, but by God, it hurts to watch. Um, anyways, Ziggs finally completes. Seraphs, and Infinity Orb. Finally. No magic pen, by the way. Or like, what, 12 magic pen? So they're trying to force their way in to get the second inhibitor of the game. And then they proceed to engage on the team fight. Look at this. Look at this clean engage. They're gonna get so many kills. They're gonna get so many kills. And they forget to clear wave. Honestly, this was a perfect ending to the shit show that this game was, right? I want to just sort of explain something here, which is that when you have an inhibitor, you don't have to be as aware. You have to be fully aware when you don't have the inhibitor about what the win condition is for your enemy, which is to have you lose your inhibitor. What? Huh? Riven blood. Okay, well then, ignore Riven. Ignore Riven. Riven is living in her little wonderland. Riven doesn't exist. She can't hurt you. Triforce Z. Oh God. You know, maybe it's. You know, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all. Yeah,